Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy
I'm not
Thanksgiving.
I'm not American, you're not American, but happy Thanksgiving to any Americans who are watching today. If you are, maybe go and spend time with your family. But if you are, like, welcome. Spend some time with us for half an hour while we talk about all things cost. That'd be great. How's your day going, George?
My day's going well. No Thanksgiving on in Madrid, but but still quite good. Thank you. How's yours?
Yeah, good. It's been a busy day to say the least. I won't go into the details, but yeah, it's good. But yeah, things are getting colder in England now, so it's starting to feel a bit more like Christmas. I heard my first Christmas song yesterday, so I'm really getting into
Oh,
that December. It's a bit early if it's like what's the end of November, but it wasn't. I don't know if
it's
you ever
already
heard of Wham.
acceptable.
Yeah, it's getting there. It's getting there.
Yeah.
No Christmas trees up in my house yet. Someone does have one up on my road. They've had it up for about a month, and
Uh, I haven't seen
yeah.
any.
Yeah, just December. When it gets to December, I'm cracking out the Christmas songs. The hat's going to come on. Everything. All right, let's get into the show. So, welcome everyone to the Keys to AWS Optimization, the show where we share stories, concepts, and solutions to help you unlock your cost at AWS. My name is Sophie Gooch. I am a commercial architect at AWS and part of the Optics team who look after global customers to help with all things financial management. Now, today, as you can see, it's just me and George. My two co-hosts are, as we said, but they're both American, so they're off today, spending time with their loved ones, celebrating Thanksgiving. But George has happily come on to be my special guest today. So, George, do you want to give everyone a bit of an intro and a backstory about what you do at AWS?
Sure. So thank you for having me, Steph. So my name is George. I am part of the Cloud Financial and team on AWS. So we help customers in the journey that you are helping them here in the show. So from one end, understanding their costs and also what to do with them, and also taking that to the next stage of actually operationalizing this change that is going into the cloud and the financial impact that comes with it, right? So I've been in the company doing this for a while, and even inside in dog years, I've been here for like 20 years. In real term, almost three. I come from the sales world, and so I saw what customers wanted to buy and how to sell, and then I just decided to come here to really saw how I could support them in this more consulting side. So that's
Nice.
yeah, snippet of me.
Cool. Well, welcome to the show for the first time. We'll probably see George again at some point, which would be good. But yeah, so today we are going to be talking about change management, and George is going to lead the start of this discussion. And what we're going to do is he's found this really cool article, which we're just going to pop on the chat at the moment. And this is what we're going to use as our foundation. So listen to us now, maybe, and then and read this, or check us out if you want to go off and read this and catch us on YouTube. If you search for the Keys to AWS Optimization, all of our shows are on YouTube as well. And so today, change management. So feel free to put in comments, questions in the chat. As always, we would like to hear from you. Let us know if you have if dealt with any of these problems that we're going to talk about, or have done any success stories. We'd love to hear when things are going well with you guys. So please put in the questions, or if you have any generic cost optimization, cloud financial management questions, me and George, then drop those in the chat too, and we'll try our best to answer. But George, do you want to go into give a starting point of what we're talking about when it comes to change management?
Yeah, so the elevator pitch for change management is change management is based on individuals. So it's not on the technical processes, it's not on the mechanism, it's not on the services that you use, but it's getting the individuals to change, right? And especially when we talk about cloud, this change can be substantial. And basically, change is equipping, enabling, and supporting individuals in their cloud journey, and in order to give them the tools to put change in practice and get to where you want, right? And so basically this article that I shared, that you just shared in the chat, and thank you for that, is made by Harvard Business Review, where they split and they put a framework into change management. And
Right.
what I decided and how to frame this conversation is basically using a generic or a general change management framework, because at the end of the day, change management is universal in some way, right? And then we go deeper into how does this apply to cloud, right? And so this framework divides change management in four parts. So
Okay.
duration, and this is how long will the project run. Then integrity, so can you trust the people behind it, and how can you trust the people behind it to run it properly. Commitment, and this is more of a top down, so how can you get the organization as a whole to see it as a priority. And then effort, bottom up, so how can you get the stakeholders moving, and how can you get them to actually apply change. So this is the
Right.
snippet view.
Cool. All right. Sounds good. All right. So let's dive into the first one. So duration was the first one, right? So do you want to talk about how that relates to cloud financial management and kind of set the scene?
Indeed. So the thing about duration and what was believed before this became trendy and change management started being studied was
Mhm.
that the longer the project, the less likely it was to happen. Right? So this
Okay.
was the misconception, and what Harvard started studying is this true or not, right? And
Right.
in this case, when applying it to cloud, it would be a problem if this was true because we have a never-ending project, right?
Yeah.
The cloud adoption never ends. The cloud
Mhm.
optimization should never end. And so, if indeed there was a deadline, which we don't have, then this would definitely be a problem. And so,
Yeah.
what the conclusion that they arrived, and it's interesting to raise here, is that it's the lack of milestones that makes it not go through, not
Right.
necessarily the duration. And they studied a bunch of companies, and this is the conclusion they arrived
Ah.
to. And I found this quite interesting, right? And because usually what companies do, and bringing it back to cloud, is they migrate to cloud.
Yeah.
Success. You've done it.
Done. Tick.
Tick, tick, and they see one Twitch episode from time to time, and that's what they do. And basically, what we are trying to do here in cloud financial management, especially in this change management pillar, is how can we turn this cloud financial management into a program? And so the
Mhm.
practical advice here on this pillar is there needs to be a clear set of priorities. There needs to be a clear turning this into an actual program that it is, right? Setting
Yeah.
milestones, setting cadences. So treating it as if you were a project manager, even if you are in tech, even if you are in finance, right? It makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. So if I think of that coming into it, what would be my kind of milestones that I see with customers? I guess there would be things like there are simple starting points like setting up the Kerr, maybe using Cost
Yeah,
Explorer.
exactly.
That they're like the simple ones. What are there anything I'm trying to think off the top of my head what would be kind of good milestones? I mean, I'm having those with customers now. I'd helped someone set up a Kerr the other day, and that was like they didn't know what that was, and so it was success to like get it. And then building upon that, I guess I had another customer so I've had for almost a year and a half now, and they're like they've just hit a milestone that just they've just moved all of their chargeback processes onto Athena, and they
All right.
were somewhere else, and now they've moved everything onto Current. So that's been like for me and them, that's been like this is such a success. In
Yeah.
reality, it might not even seem that big because we're just doing chargeback that was the same as what they were doing before. But now it's all like it's all Amazon native and it's all automated and it's brilliant. So yeah. But what about you? Are there any other kind of milestones that you think people are good to aim for?
So it's an interesting question, and I would bring something that the FinOps Foundation uses quite interesting, which is the crawl, walk, run framework,
Right.
right? And so
Mm-hmm.
basically, this is a way of setting priorities, and this will vary exactly as you said. For example, if we speak about okay, let's have visibility on your costs, so we should start with understanding the curve, but as well as it's important to know how to leverage truly Cost Explorer because
Yeah.
although it seems overall like a pretty simple tool, you
Mm-hmm.
can misuse it if you don't know its true potential, right? So
Mm-hmm.
there's a fallacy behind it where it seems simple because it's interactive, it's colorful, but understanding it for me is also part of this priority, beginning priority. And even, from example, if we're defining priorities to start, tagging, right?
Mm-hmm.
Understanding how to tag your resources, what resources are tagged, and building those KPIs around it so you know where you stand. And exactly what you said, you define the milestone and you hit it. If you don't
Yeah.
define milestones, then you're just continuing this cloud
Just doing
migration.
stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're doing stuff. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, that's great. No, the tagging stuff's really interesting. I'm just searching for. I'm going to try and find this link as I talk. But the tagging thing's really interesting. There was a customer who I can't remember who it was now. It feels so long ago that they wanted to see how much they had tagged of their infrastructure, and they were going down the resource tag process. I think that we have another episode on tagging that you can check out where we look at how account tagging can often be easier. But they wanted to know. How they could see the percentage of their tags related to cost. And so I just took it down. So in the Kerr libraries, there should be a tagging query in there now, which will show you of a certain tag how much of your resources are tagged like percentage
Oh,
wise, which is really cool.
okay.
And so you can use that as a great KPI. You can track that, and then you can say like we want all of our, and it might be all of our EC2s. It might because it might not be that everything is taggable, but it might be kind of all your big resources, or your big kind of fives, so your RDS, your EC2, your S3 kind of big resources are done. That'd be a great starting point. Yeah, that's another good
Yeah.
kind of
And
point.
I think something super important from what you mentioned there is we shouldn't stop, right? Because companies, if they're
Mm-hmm.
aiming for 100% of taggable resources, then that's it. We're going to be stopped there for a while. So also part of this prioritization is knowing when to accept that that's a good progress to go onwards, right? And
Yeah, yeah.
this constant redefinition of the priorities, and that's why these milestones exist. That's why these cadences should exist. And yeah, basically that is the duration bit.
Nice. Okay, well, let's move on then to the next one. What was the next one? Integrity?
So yeah, exactly. So integrity, it's an interesting one. Integrity is how can you make sure that once you do say, okay, let's go onwards, you can trust the stakeholders, the manager, so everyone involved to actually go onwards with it and actually
Right.
implement. And how does this apply to cloud? We have two big pieces here. We have one, which is how can you enable the people to do the right job? So from one end, guaranteeing that the job will be well done. And as you know, in the cloud field, you cannot assume that people will know, right? Because
Hmm.
even the fields always seem new. The fields
Yeah.
are constantly being updated. And then the second bit to integrity is how can you set up the right mechanisms to make sure that these things are being implemented the way you want them to, or at least the way in a way that the team agrees, right? And
Yeah.
here you've mentioned a chargeback mechanism. That is a great example of a way to of a mechanism that works, and there are different layers according to accountabilities. But I'll reach that point. Start yeah, starting with education. Here we have a bunch of resources to help the customers, and this is where it's important for companies to define what stage of involvement they want to be, right? Because we have,
Right.
if you say, look, I'm already experienced enough, I've done my certifications, I want to be hands off, we have blog posts, we have white papers, they can go through this route, right? Or even
Yeah.
um, well architected labs. But if you want a more sort of hands off, hands on, and you want to join a peer connect to cross check, do a heat check of how the other companies are doing, or even attend some sort of event where you learn a bit, but also still not fully committed, that's also possible. But even if you want a full engagement, that is also possible, right? So it's important for companies to define this level of education, the level of
Hmm.
certifications that they want their customers to be, and not to fall, which I'm sure you've seen before, which is you're certified, so you know about cloud. And
Oh yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. It's just like, oh, it's done now. That's it. I know everything about cloud, even though we
exactly.
release stuff constantly. I mean, re:Invent's next week. We're going to be releasing new stuff, and we're going to have to learn. And like Alex said on our last episode, when we talk about re:Invent, like we don't even know what's coming out. So, and we work
Yeah,
here, and there's going to be so many things, and there's always things developing, and that's what it should be. It's technology, it's growing, it's evolving, and all that stuff. But yeah, the education piece is really interesting, especially when it comes to talking about the FinOps Foundation, like this concept of like bringing in all the different stakeholders and making sure you all speak one language. The other day, working with a customer, and they are doing something very specific. They're actually deploying some solutions. They're looking at tagging, they're deploying dashboards and things like that. And
yeah,
then they go, do you know what? My finance team, they don't really know about savings plans, and they're not really sure why can we do that. Can you help us educate them, and then we can buy a savings plan? Because at the moment they're saying no, that doesn't make sense, we don't understand it. And so
yeah.
like making sure that everybody is on the same page is really valuable. I think people take it for granted. I think you're right that people assume everybody knows stuff.
And I think that that's the key part around change management is you're
Mhm.
telling finance people that are very used to doing things the way they've been doing for the past, and tech people that are also that basically things need to change, right?
Yeah,
Because now a finance person needs to care about the tech side. They need to be at least some level of expertise they need to have. And
yeah,
this process of convincing, because for example, the fact that you had a customer reaching out and saying, we want the finance people to know about savings plans, for me that's already a step further than what
yeah,
we could expect, which is I don't care if finance knows. We
mm,
want them, and so this
yeah.
mismatch is an interesting part of education and a really interesting side that you bring.
Yeah, yeah, and I think I've said this story before, but I always bring it up was the poor finance man who used to look after me at KPMG. He was just given reports for so many years, and one day he was like, "Steph, what is an RI? Like, what is this thing?" And I was like, "Oh, it's this." And he's like, "Oh my god, this makes so much more sense now. Now I understand what's going on. I can see, and you can see where the problems are. So if a billing thing looks really odd, like suddenly something the numbers dramatically change, he would be like, "Well, that's what they said." But now he's like, "Oh, I can go and check this."
Yeah,
But yeah,
an interesting thing as well is when I was in the sales side, I talked in my first role a lot with more CEOs, and
right,
because it was more of a mass approach job. And when I got to speak or mention RIs or savings plans, they would say, "Ah, I'll forward you to the CTO." And I said, actually, there's other roles that are interesting. He said, most likely not. And and so getting this convincing of it is interesting for you, it's an interesting one.
Yeah, definitely. So if everybody's joined us, it's kind of in the last couple of minutes. So we're talking about change management today, and we're kind of going off this cool article that Joe found, which George found that I misread that. That's kind of breaks down change management into 4 main ways. So we're going to go through. We've got 2 more to run through. So what was the next one?
Yeah, and just to finish on the
Oh, sure, go
integrity
for it.
piece, no, because it's very related to what you're saying, which is how can you guarantee, right? And here is the sense of accountability. And in a snippet, so we don't go over, there's 3 types of accountability, which is self accountability, finance accountability, and business accountability. And
Right.
through each one of them, you see different levels of expectations, right, from people. And self accountability is believing in the goodwill of people, right? So it's the least realistic one. Is the we show it's based on showback, so we show you
Yeah.
and we expect you to know how to handle it, and we trust you fully. And this is a
Yeah.
beautiful idea, not necessarily applicable in a lot of cases, but
Yeah.
it exists. Financial one is you're accountable for your financial status. You will be charged for what you do, and so we expect you to act accordingly because there will be an action reaction always. And then
Right.
the last one, the business one, is basically based on KPIs and unit metrics, but related to the business. So what you're doing is not impacting only yourself, but your entire organization. And so that's an interesting one to grasp as well.
Yeah, definitely. I like this concept of thinking about like, are you like, is someone willing to do something for the good of the business without any
Yeah.
like they don't get measured on it, but are they willing to think, oh, take a step back and say, how is this benefiting the company I
Yeah.
work for? And I wonder if many people do that. I mean, I always have this mobile phone example where people will spend money on their work phone and won't care about it because they don't see the bill. And that's where that kind of leading into that second point you said is a massive part of cloud financial management is that
Yeah.
ownership. And that is, if you can get people to care, then that's it. That's the biggest win. If you can get developers to care how much they spend. And I'm not saying that people don't, like a lot of developers do, and it's great. But there are a lot of companies where, and quote unquote, what did the customer say? Oh, daddy's paying. That's what customers have said. That's an actual quote where someone said the
That is a
daddy's
great
paying
quote.
approach, which
That
I
is a
think
great quote.
is excellent.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, there's 3 great points. So yeah, good for people to take ownership of what decisions they're making. Yeah, and think about how it's affecting your business. What if it was your business, and what if it was your money? Have that
Yes.
consideration. For sure. Okay, commitment. Let's chat about
Commitment.
commitment.
So the commitment piece is how can you ensure that you have the organization as a whole seeing it as a priority, right? How can you have leadership saying we should go in this route and this makes sense for us? And here, I mean, the word is executive sponsorship, right? The word is getting this top-down approach, getting this top-down endorsement, because it is great for you to have this management level of endorsement. It is even great to have the senior management, but if you reach the VP or C level and they say this is important, it simply becomes important. And that's yeah, if that is saying that it's important, everyone goes with it, right? And so a good example I have on this is in my previous role as account manager, one of my accounts, they were a big FSI in the Netherlands, and we had been working with them, and everything seemed to be in place for us to start implementing the processes, for us to start this post migration phase, and it was stagnated. Nothing was moving forward. We spoke with different people, and it was just not going there. And we tried 20 plus people bottom up, but when we decided to go top down, the C level sent an email saying this is a priority, and it took a week to get started. And for me, this is yeah, it's an insane example.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's the thing though. It's getting the right people in the room to take advantage of this. And I used to have this as well, where customers, well, when I was working somewhere else, we would say like, I think it's just me. I'd be like, this is really important. We can save so much money, but just me kind of shouting at people. And also, I think I've mentioned this before, how the approach I probably had before wasn't great, where I was just like telling people like, you're doing stuff wrong and like you're wasting too much money. And that's, people don't want to hear that. Don't do that, guys. That's a lesson learned. Be like, work collaboratively. But yeah, when it became and it was one of those things that I tried to get to, was where you have the directors or the managers saying, okay, we're going to set some metrics around cost and we're going to aim for that. Going back to what we said at the start, like having those milestones, that could be a KPI that you're like, oh, this is really important for us to get to this measure.
Exactly.
And I think I had a customer recently who, I've had a lot of I'm very busy customer wise. You can tell by the amount of stories I've had.
We are busy here.
we are busy. But they had a customer recently who, they were just on the phone to me and they were like, right, we have a goal of saving 20%. Like, how can you help us get there? And that's sometimes better, because going in cold and saying, oh, we could save some money over here, over here, is a bit harder. But having something you could track and kind of follow, and then you can go back up the chain and say, look, we did what you said, give us a raise, give us some more developers. Like, there are all these options. We've like saved you so much money, we're more efficient, we're doing better at our jobs. So yeah, I think that's really great.
An interesting approach here to have in mind. That is a super good point. And something else, which is for the ones tougher to convince, try to link it to the business benefit of it, right? So not just because, but if the C-level is saying, look, this is important, not because we're becoming more tech savvy, not because we can say we are a very innovative company, but look, this is the amount of saving that we're having, this is the amount of revenue that is generating out of it, this is why it is crucial for our business. If you get to this sentence, then I mean, it's pretty much done, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I think if we go back, I'm going to also put the YouTube link in here for any of our newer watchers that we have a YouTube channel, which is where all of our video on demand kind of goes to. But there was an episode we had Andy from my team come on, and he always mentions this story, which I'm very envious that he has, which is where he had a customer who wanted to get to, I think it was like under $1 per item. I think that was something like, under $1 per car, I think it was. And that sounds a bit kind of random, but it does mean that there was a goal that it had to get to. And it was just very specific. Oh, I've lost George. You're back.
I'm back. I'm sorry. Don't know what happened.
I did that the other day. I like swiped. I was just chatting to myself because I wasn't on this tab. And so I was just like, I'm going to get the YouTube link up, and I'm just talking. And then I looked back and I was like, oh, it's just me. What happened? There we go. We're still running. I was just paranoid that I closed the window. Okay, sorry. All I was saying was that check out our YouTube channel to go and see a good chat with Andy Brown, which is where he discussed where you had this very specific goal where they had efficiency based on a really useful metric. So round it off. Cool. I don't know if you were saying anything before you got cut off.
No.
Okay, you're all fine.
Yeah, just dropped.
You just dropped.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
So yeah, and then the last piece here of the puzzle is the effort bit, right? And we spoke about top down, and even top down being a great endorsement, as I've said. Bottom up is incredibly important, right? And this is where it fits. So how can you make it engaging? How can you make it easier for them? And at least that's how I saw it, or how I approach this employee side. So one, how can you make it better for them, or at least more engaging? And two, how can you make it easier, right? And so starting with better, there's this trend now in all segments tech, which is the gamification bit, right? How can you create this interesting, engaging piece for people to do it in a different way and approach what they do in a more entertaining way, if you will. And here hackathons are an idea, competitions are an idea, full day events, right? We've seen people inside our company organizing technical full day competitions where they spend the day seeing who can find more optimization opportunities, and at the end there's a gift card, right? I don't know if you've done anything of a sorts with your customers.
I haven't been able to do one yet, mainly because of, I guess, kind of COVID stuff and not being able to go on site and see them and do this stuff. But if any of my customers want to, but now that we can travel, let me know. But yeah, we had another episode which was all about the fin hack and how you can go and do that, which was great. So yeah, definitely hackathons are, and that having that gamification thing we talk about all the time is just giving someone something fun to do. I think breaking it down, we haven't really said this before, is that gamification is great and people love the word, and it's all about making people, you're challenging them to do work and but you're convincing them it's fun. But it can actually be really fun to like go off and like have like pizzas and snacks and like do something for like a really long period of time. Get rid of all your customer meetings, get rid of all your like sessions that you have every day. Everyone's got their diaries are full of meetings. Go and do something where it's like, it's a bit of team bonding, it's a bit of fun. And at the end of it, people are going to learn, like we were saying before, we want people to develop in these situations. So get them to do something out of their comfort zone, get them to pick up new skills, get people to, I'm really bringing everything back together, bring in the finance teams and be like, how can we help you? And get some stakeholders that are involved. And also you need to, like, going back to the third point is about having the space to do this. So make sure that someone from the top down has said, yeah, you guys can go and spend a day doing this. That's a lot of money in some companies if there's a lot of developers. So it takes a lot of benefit to do that. But yeah, definitely the hackathon things, I would love to be a part of one again. I haven't done one since I was at university. So
see, that can even be a way to reminisce, a way to the good old days, and even it can be a good excuse to link finance and tech. Because if you try to do, for example, a conflict resolution hackathon or a project where you try to create this sort of synergies, it can be very interesting. And yeah, well, this is the first part, so the making it more engaging through gamification, and the second part is automation, right? There's a link I shared with you which just goes over the different areas, and I encourage you to take a look at it. It basically just goes through all the different areas that AWS has, and it groups them into how you can automate in these different fields. And the key to automation is you shouldn't start with it by any means. Let's just start to this crawl side. Let's understand what cloud is. Let's understand the tools that you have available. But at a certain stage, the more automated you are, the less you need to worry about things that you shouldn't be worrying at this stage, and you can focus on more important topics. And so that is the goal of automation, right? Making you be involved in more interesting scenarios. I don't know if this is something you talk a lot with your customer staff about automation.
Yeah, I mean, coming from a DevOps background, I'm always up for the automation. I had a really interesting call. So I helped a customer that wasn't one of mine the other day, and they're really lovely. And they, like, shout out to them if anybody of them is watching. I doubt it, but you never know. But we're trying to work out a way it was a very interesting situation actually. They had a billing console, and then they were saying, if you want to pay to get access to this cool, funky cost optimization tool we have, we're going to disconnect you from the billing console, but give you access to this, which is great. But to do it, you need to enable member care. But then if they've disabled the access to the billing console, they can't go in and make the member care. And so what was happening is this guy was having to log into every account and get keys to get in, and then do it, and then change it and set up a bucket manually. And it just like that. He's like, that's fine. But that's when you do like 3 accounts. When you got to do 60 or 100 or 200, you're just like, job. I don't. Yeah, exactly. Of just like sitting there. So I was like, okay, let's think about, what can we deploy? What can we get out there ready? And I was like, well, you could make a role that you could assume into, you could make the S3 bucket, and you could put the policy in there for you. And then you could just do the curve. The curve bit's really simple. You could do that in a line. So let's do those 3 things. Let's use a CloudFormation template, go to AWS native stuff, use that. And then he's like, okay, how do I get that? And out onto the accounts. And I was like, well, there's a thing called stack sets. And stack sets, I don't know if you're familiar with them, but you can deploy it from your management account, and then it you can choose the accounts it goes into, or the OUs it goes into, and it deploys that CloudFormation stack into all the accounts you want it to.
Super cool.
Which is really nice. And it's something that's relatively new, I think. And so it means that now he can just sit there and go, okay, well, these 10 accounts have said, yes, I want this tool. Okay, add those accounts in, and now the deployment's done. And all he does is just go, assume role, and curve done. And it's just saved him so much time. So that's what they're deploying. So the automation, I could chat for hours about automation, but we only have 2 minutes left.
So it's an episode on its own.
Yeah, I should just talk about automation. But yeah, I mean, with that, so we've got 2 more minutes. Any kind of final thoughts about kind of cloud change management really related to cloud financial management? There's too many words, they're that long, that you want to share.
So trying to put it in one-liner, don't underestimate the importance of people, right? Don't underestimate the importance of cooperation, because even if the tech side is just flying high in it, it's really not relevant if the tech side is not. So that would be my...
Right. That's great. Awesome. Okay, cool. Well, thank you for joining us. Next week, everybody, we are having a reInvent special. So we're not here today. We're not here on a Thursday. We're here on a Friday, an hour earlier. So 2:30 on Friday, we are doing a reInvent special. We're going to look at all the fun stuff that's happened at reInvent and really hone it down so that you guys can see the exact things, the places you can save money, the new releases, all the cool stuff. For the person who just put a comment in the chat, all these links will be put on our show notes that will be on YouTube. So you look for keys to AWS optimization and you'll be able to find us there. That's it for this week. Thank you so much for coming on, and we'll see you next week on Friday.
Thank you.